Hi, how's it going? This is a resident of Collinwood for YouTube, here with a character retrospective, or so to speak. The survival of Tommy Jarvis, played by Corey Feldman, John Shepard, and Tom Mathis. Now, obviously, I'm going to start with Corey Feldman first. He played the character first in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. And I think this is a very interesting character for a lot of reasons. Number one, this is only the second character in the Friday the 13th franchise to make a literal return. um, and I say that because though Corey Feldman doesn't reprise his role too much, this character is introduced in the final chapter first and foremost. So I'm not saying that his first appearance is his second appearance. His second appearance comes in Friday the 13th, Part 5. And yes, you get Corey Feldman in a dream sequence seeing two people dig up Jason, which is going to be pretty much an omen or a vision, if you whatever you want to call it, for Part 6, because Tommy Jarvis is going to be the one digging him up in Part 6, which is Tom Mathis's character. I will say that when I say this is the second character who made a return to the franchise, the character of Alice did come back in Part 2, but she was killed off at the beginning. Yes, she was killed off. I'm sorry for those who are going to get mad at that, but that's that. Um, do I wish we would have got a female protagonist with more than one, or maybe like the beginning of a second movie? Yes, I do. That's sort of why I'm curious where they're going to take Eve in the short film that we got for Friday the 13th. Sorry, Sweet Revenge. Sweet Revenge. My apologies. Um, so Tommy Jarvis, who has a mom, a sister, and they are, I think they're renting or they own the house that is on the other side of Crystal Lake. You know, that's something I got to give a lot of credit for. For one, my buddy Mark Gilman, huge shout out to him, and my buddy Butch Rosenbaum, huge shout out to him. Both are huge Friday the 13th fans. So, um, I had a conversation with my buddy Daniel Culver. Shout out to him. I'm just saying it to shout people out. Um, Once that we were talking about, did Tommy see his mother get killed? Or sorry, did Tommy find his mother's body? And I think we both said yes, that he most likely he did. So Tommy's mother and Tommy's sister Trish, I think her name is. Double check here one, because again, I'm old. I can't remember nothing at all. God, yes, I'm double checking as I talk about this because I'm old. Um, yes, final chapter. Yes, kids. Yes, Trish, I was correct. I was correct. So there is that. And I like the character of Trish, but I'm going to tell you why I think Tommy is a more interesting character here too. Before I get into the story of Tom, before I get into the complete story of Tommy here in front of the camera. Remember Shelley from Part 3? Shelley is an actor. He wears these costumes. He wears basically horror costumes, serial killer costumes, and he's killed off. I think Shelley was a little more popular than what the writers gave him credit for, and maybe kind of real in the producers and kind of realize that. Because when you look at Tommy, I'm not saying he's Shelley. He's not. He's his own character, but I do see a lot of similar qualities. For example, Shelley's a grown man, so he pulls a lot of practical jokes. Now, does Tommy pull a lot? Not a lot, but he does pull one on a complete stranger, and because it's a kid, this grown man takes it well. Um, and the reason again, Tommy's a kid. Tommy's a young boy, and you learn Tommy makes uh, horror mask. Um, that he spends a lot of time on video games and horror mask, and he's a fan of that stuff. But he's not a depraved kid. He's not this sadistic killer, if you will. If there's nothing mentally wrong with Tommy, and I say that because you might say, well, what kind of kid makes horror mask? This kind of kid, Tommy Jarvis does. And Corey Feldman's character also knows how to fix things like breaker boxes, cars. He's very mechanically inclined at a young age, and he was probably shown this by, you know, I probably a bit of his dad and probably some of his mom, but I also think he stepped up as a young man a bit too, because the father, Trish and Tommy's father, you don't see him. You don't get to meet him. He's very absent from their lives for the most part. Um, though they seem to have some sort of communication with him, though you don't see him in the frame of this movie. So the three Jarvis uh, family members are renting this house, um, and across from them is another house that young teenagers or sorry, young adults are going to rent. There's also two twin girls who are camping at Crystal Lake or somewhere near there. They're at least biking on the trail, who are also going to hang out with the young new crowd that are coming in. Is Trish's mother and Tommy aware of the legend of Jason? For the first part of this movie, I'm gonna stress this. I'm not sure if Tommy's aware. And I've never really been sure going back and rewatching this. But I'm going to say for the most part, no. He didn't know who Jason Voorhees was. Oh,
It's broke. I have to take it back.
okay.
It's legitimately broke.
I'm sorry.
That means I have to find my receipts where I bought it and take it back.
Okay. Sorry. But yeah, I would say Tommy is not aware, because, and the reason I say that is because when Tommy is reading the articles about Jason's missing body. And again, would you tell a young kid that hey, there was a killer around here once? Probably not. You might not tell him because he might be too scared, even for a young man such as Tommy. That and Tommy, again, you do see Trish be protective of Tommy when the young adults are skinny dipping and the girls and guys are skinny dipping. She covers her brother's eyes like, hey, like, don't no. And Tommy tells Gordon, we're too young for that. Gordon's the dog in this movie. So I would say Tommy is not aware of Jason. Now, Trish, on the other hand, it's sort of a tale of two characters who are related to each other. One has information and one kind of doesn't. And then you get into the fact of Trisha's mother. Did she have information? And most likely she did. She did at least know about Jason. though they act very casual. They're not. I'll say this, because Jason has been pronounced dead going into the final chapter, everybody's very relaxed going back up to Crystal Lake and staying there. And when I say back, I do mean this. It's on the, when you see part one, part two, part three, and part four, it's all on Crystal Lake. Those Higgins Haven is somewhere on is somewhere near Crystal Lake. I won't say it's directly on the lake, whereas the first one, two, and four are more directly on the lake. They're closer to said lake than Higgins Haven is. That's something. I will say Higgins Haven is more off of Crystal Lake than on it, but it's near it enough, and that's why Jason goes there probably. Um, so that's sort of my take on that. Um, with Tommy himself, when did he find his mother's body is the question I'm sure many people might ask. Sometime um, when Tommy, there's the moment Tommy is coming down the stairs. When you hear somebody trying to get into the house, and it's Trish and the young man who's trying to hunt for Jason. When Tommy's coming down the steps, look at Corey Feldman's face. And great blocking by Corey, Mr. Corey Feldman. Great job. I mean, what an actor, and a very, very, very talented actor. I would say that's the moment that he saw his mom's body, because look at his face. He's in shock. And you can say he's not crying. No, he's not. Because the first stage of grief is shock, usually. Then doubting. And then there's tears. And honestly, I think Tommy, the reason you don't see Tommy cry is not because he doesn't care. It's because there's also anger. And anger kicks in over grief a lot of times. Sometimes they sort of both happen at the same time, where you're angry and you're sort of grieving and you're crying. Tears often flow when you're at your most emotional, right? Whether you're angry, you're sad, you're upset at something that happened in your life. These are things that mentally, I would say Tommy is a young man who did not expect to lose his mother. The character I find most strange in all this is the young man hunting for Jason. No, if you felt Jason was alive, why are you coming here by yourself? You know? There's also a line in this movie. He says he's hunting for bear, and Tommy Jarvis says, "You can't be hunting for bear." It doesn't look like it's fall or winter. When they're whatever. But I mean, could it be too late in the season for bear? Sure, I guess it could. I more like to think there's a law against hunting bear, is why Tommy calls that out. Like, wait, like you can't be hunting for bear up here. It might be against the law. In some campsites, there's also, even though they might not be owned by the original owner no more, whoever owns it might have kept the rules. Like, okay, no hunting on these grounds, no hunting for bear on these grounds. You might be able to hunt and fish, but it might only be so small game or venison only, deer. those are types of things that rules hunters have to follow. Um, so that's why I think Tommy's calling that out. We don't see those types of signs. I want to be clear in Friday the 13th final chapter, but I every time I go back and watch it, I'm trying to eliminate reasons for myself. I'm trying to deduct reasons Tommy might be saying this. And those are just logical reasons he might be. I'm not saying those are the reasons. I'm saying they might be. Because again, depending on the area you're hunting in. With Tommy, we know the party goers are all going to be killed. And yes, the man who's hunting for Jason is going to be killed. Trish tells Tommy to leave before they go over to that house. Just leave. Get out of here. And it's like, I don't understand Trish's logic. Where's Tommy gonna go? He's gonna go into town and get help. You'll be dead by that time. And I don't think Trish comes to the realization that Tommy saw their mother's body. Because I don't know if Trish is coming to that realization that her mother's dead. She may have in that course of the movie, but maybe she doesn't realize Tommy saw her body. Because you never, as an audience goer, you never see Tommy Jarvis see the body. The cinematographer never shows Trish and Tommy's mother's body. We see all the other bodies, but not hers. And I do think that's done on purpose. So after the man who's hunting Jason is killed, and it's just Trish and Tommy versus Jason, Tommy is shaving his head. He's cutting his hair, shaving his head. He's looking like young Jason when Jason was a young boy. He does a really great job. And you see Corey Feldman come down the stairs and he says, "Jason, do you remember me, Jason?" Now, I don't think Jason is necessarily fooled by this, but he's distracted by it. And it's enough for Trish to knock the hockey mask off Jason's face. And you see Jason's ugly face again. And it's more uglier than the last time, right? This time, Jason is killed off. Yes, you heard me right. The final chapter does feel like the final chapter in every way. When you watch this movie, it feels like this is goodbye to Jason. Really, I feel this is goodbye to the mortal Jason that we know. To me, that's why I feel this is more a final chapter to that Jason. Because after this, well, I'll wait for that. Because part 5 isn't Jason. I'll get into that here in a moment. But Trish lives. Tommy lives. Tommy takes the machete and starts hacking away at Jason. After Jason gets a machete to the face, Tommy's hacking Jason in the back with a machete, screaming, "Die, die." The closing moment in this movie is Trish hugging Tommy, and Tommy opens his eyes, and he looks crazed. This moment, along with their mother's body, is going to haunt Tommy for the rest of his life. And rightfully so. It explains why John Shepherd gets to play Tommy the way he does. John Shepherd is the next. That's right. I forgot to mention 3 different actors. I don't think I forgot to mention, but I'm going to think I forgot to mention 3 different actors play Tommy Jarvis. Next up is John Shepherd, and John does a really great job. And you might say, well, he doesn't really have many lines. He maybe has 1 or 2, if 3. And I agree with you. He only has 3 lines. But semi-mute characters or characters who are very silent aren't the easiest to play because you're relying a lot on your blocking, on your acting, and not so much your words. And I think John Shepard does a phenomenal job. I also think the writers do a really good job in part 5. An excellent job in framing Tommy for the murders in this movie. The character of Tommy Jarvis. Tommy Jarvis is, I would say, at least 20 in this movie. It's my cat's like meowing around. Is 20 in this movie. At least he looks 20. He's an adult, a young adult. He's wearing glasses. I assume, because again, he was wearing glasses as a young boy. I assume when Tommy became older, he just wore contacts. That's my opinion. And ditched the glasses. Because I don't think your eyesight improves when you're getting older. So you have this character who is coming to a mental hospital. And you might say, how is this hospital near Crystal Lake? Again, you have a hospital that's off of Crystal Lake. It's somewhere near Crystal Lake, but not that near. Again, a lot of these places are close by enough, right? And they put Tommy here because of that reason. Okay, he has to come here. And you notice the female in this, the lead female protagonist in this movie, her name is Pam. Jason's mother is named Pamela. That's on purpose. You have 3 protagonists in this movie. Yes, not 1, 3. Reggie the Reckless steals this movie. He is more. I like Tommy in this movie a lot. I do think he's an interesting character, but he's also here for a plot related reason. He's not just here because he's interesting. Yeah, that's one of the reasons. He's here because the writers are going to use Tommy as a plot to throw the audience of who the real killer is. Again, part 5 does the closest to copy part 1 because part 1 is a murder mystery. I think that's something that, if you're not familiar with the franchise, can get lost upon you. But part 5 is a murder mystery as well. Who's doing the killing? Is it Tommy? No, it's not. It's not. It's the paramedic. It's the ambulance driver. Oh my gosh. Who's dressing like Jason? And yes, Jason is discussed in this movie. The sheriff and the mayor discuss Jason. The sheriff feels that it's Jason Voorhees doing the murders. That Jason got up out of his grave and is doing the murders. And the mayor says Jason's body's a pile of ashes. Did you see his ashes, Mayor? Did you see them burn his body? And that's a great point that your sheriff is bringing up. Okay. Because basically what the sheriff is saying, that's a nice little political statement for not audience goers, but for voters. But I'm not a voter. I'm not one of your voters. Don't bullshit me. Did you see it? And the mayor, you notice the mayor doesn't answer that question. That's one of the best interactions I've seen from a sheriff ever. He's actually my favorite sheriff of all time in any horror movie because he questions the authority in front of him and he's making great points, though he's wrong. And I like that he is wrong because it makes him human. It keeps it in the sense of reality that he's not right. I think that's one of the best things I like too about part 5 too. It's not just the reveal of who's doing it. It's the reveal that the sheriff is wrong. It's not Jason. Tommy. Now, I will say the person who dresses up like Jason does a great job of framing Tommy for this. He puts the bodies in Tommy's room. And Tommy is going to, even Pam and Reggie both think it's Tommy. Pam and Reggie think Tommy did this when they see the bodies in Tommy's room. They think that Tommy is dressed as Jason. And really, what I love about John Shepherd so much, what he does so well is you could make the case that yes, it could be Tommy under that mask. Tommy disappears for hours on end. You never see Tommy and the man dressed as Jason in the same place until the end of the movie. I'm going to repeat that, until the end of the movie. They do a really great job. And you have Tommy who's approaching. Reggie sees him. He hollers out. Now you see the man dressed as Jason. Now you see Tommy. Tommy thinks this is Jason. Tommy is so traumatized by the events of when he was a kid. And again, throughout the movie, he's been seeing Jason's dead corpse haunt him because the events of when he was a kid haunt him. And I think that's one of the best unsung things about the character. The events of 4 will always haunt Tommy, and they still haunt Tommy in part 6. It's why they bring him back for the closure. But John Shepherd does a really good job. Is Tommy the hero of this movie? He's not the only hero, but it's more Reggie and Pam and Tommy and them save the day. They cut off the arm of the person who's playing Jason. He falls, or the hand, and guess what? It wasn't Jason. It wasn't Jason or Tommy. And the sheriff does reveal that the ambulance driver must have used the Jason story to throw off our scent. So you do get the admittance of the sheriff being wrong. I think this movie psychologically is one of the best ones. I think it pays a huge compliment to the first movie. Is it better than it? No. But it's a great companion to it. And it doesn't get enough praise for what they were doing, for what they were trying. I mean, they were going, in a lot of ways, they were keeping the roots of the original movie within part 5. No, it isn't Pamela here. Pamela's not your killer. Pamela's long dead and gone. But to remake, I don't want to say they weren't remaking it, but to make this a murder mystery again, to go back to your roots in the 5th installment is not a bad idea. And it wasn't a bad idea. I think, too, it makes the character of Tommy more interesting because you're sort of wondering, okay, where is Tommy? Tommy is in a mental facility. This facility he's going to, Pinehurst, I think it's called, is the next step before he goes back to civilization. But here's the thing. Tommy isn't saying much. He doesn't talk much. It's like, what? Okay, he's on medication for hallucination. What is it about Tommy that they felt he was ready to go to this facility? Because, again, it's a step away from going back to civilization. Okay, how many years do you think, if the events don't happen, how long does Tommy stay there? Because I gather that the people there have been staying there for a while. They just didn't show up yesterday. You know what I mean? And you already sort of see the flaw in the system when somebody commits murder. That's how this starts. And it's not Jason. It's not the guy dressed as Jason either. I really enjoy the plot. Um, they did a great job. And by the end, you do see Pam feel sorry for thinking that Tommy did the murders. But here's the thing, she has every reason to believe Tommy did it. She has Tommy should be her suspect. Tommy should absolutely. I don't. You do get that in this movie. You get two characters being wrong, and I, as a fan of murder mysteries, I appreciate that because you might say, "Don't you feel that makes the characters look dumb?" No, no. The again, I always go back to Laurie Strode. Okay, is Laurie Strode dumb for thinking her friends are pulling a prank on her? No, no, she doesn't know they've been murdered. Okay, why should this woman not believe it was Tommy? Tommy's the mental patient, one of the mental patients. Tommy, since Tommy's arrival, there's been one murder. It may have not been Tommy's fault, but it happened. Tommy hallucinates. Tommy doesn't open up. Tommy doesn't talk. He's he gets physically aggressive when anybody does the littlest thing to him. How far will he take that physical aggression? And you see him literally lift somebody over their head, over his head, and just put him down. Um, it's just crazy. So those are things you gotta watch for when you're watching part 5. Part 6, Tom. I always mispronounce Tom or Tom Mathis. The third actor to play Tom and Jarvis, 3 different actors. I think this is why, too, this is not just because Tom Mathis plays him, but he's the only character in the Friday the 13th franchise to return 3 times. And I will say, after this, the protagonist in the franchise, it's not that they're bad, it's they're not as interesting as part 7's interesting. 8, okay. I don't hate Jason Takes Manhattan. I like it. But I don't think you need Remy's backstory either to have Jason in the movie. Like, I don't feel in my opinion, and I'm not trying to go off Tommy here, you don't need Remy in that movie to have this story. You just don't. Whether Remy's there or not, this is going to happen. These events are going to unfold. Remy, that's sort of the contrast difference between part 7 and part 8. Part 7, the female protagonist in 7, it matters she's there because she's the one who brings Jason out the lake. Not on purpose, but her telekinesis and how strong it is because she doesn't have proper control over it. She brings Jason back out the lake and he starts killing people. Whereas in part 8, it's like, okay, you've already shown me Jason's back. Jason gets back awake because they electrocute him again to bring him back out of his sleep, out of his slumber. He's just resting at the bottom of the lake. And guess what? He starts killing again. Okay, that's prior to Remy showing up. Jason is going to board that boat, whether Remy's on it or not. There's not enough importance for Remy, even with her backstory. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate the character, but I don't feel she's important enough. It's the same thing with 3. Three and eight have one problem, and it's the things that are going to happen whether the protagonist is there or not. You could say, well, five's going to be the same way. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, but what I'll say is Tommy's still an interesting character because they're giving more of a reason to use Tommy. Tommy's important to five because they're setting him up for the murders. His plot matters. With part 6, the final chapter, or no, sorry, Jason Lives, which has a James Bond style of opening. Jason coming across. Now, if you look at the artwork of this on the DVD, you'll learn initially they wanted to go with Jason's dad. They did not, though. I love this movie. This is my favorite Friday the 13th movie because it's just crazy. Once again, it's not called Camp Crystal Lake, it's called Camp Forest Green. It doesn't matter. The name does not matter because once Jason comes back, Tommy and his friend who are fresh from the asylum, who have been mentally cleared somehow, go to where Jason Voorhees is buried and dig up his body. Tommy takes a metal rod and starts jamming it in Jason's body. Lightning hits because it's getting ready to storm and rain, and this electricity brings Jason back to life. So this is the first time they use electricity to bring Jason back. Jason Takes Manhattan is the second time. And this is something, again, I said that part 4 is the final mortal version of Jason, because really now Jason's immortal. Jason is immortal now. No matter, you could render him unconscious, you can render him dead, and yet still bring him back to life. Okay? He's not dead if you can continue to bring him back to life. That's just crazy. And once this happens, Tommy's friend is killed by Jason, obviously. Tommy goes to the sheriff. The sheriff doesn't really want to hear his story. He goes, "Look, I'm sorry what happened to you and your family, but nobody wants to remember Jason around here no more." And the sheriff tries to reason with him, but the sheriff's patience is wearing thin too. The sheriff's daughter runs the camp, so you have a subplot there. There are now little kids at the camp. This is also a very creepy Friday the 13th because it involves kids. I love the performance of Jason. Really well done by C.J. Graham. One of my favorite Jasons of all time, if not my favorite. I love that he throws knives. And by the way, this is not the first time Jason throws something. If you watch part 4, Jason throws something. He throws an axe through the door, I think. So you do see Jason throw. You do know Jason throws things. Part 6, you more see it. You see the physical action of it, which I love because it's been used over and over again. And no, it's not done enough, in my opinion. I love that aspect of Jason because it makes sense. He lives out in the wilderness. He probably, he doesn't. Here's a guy who doesn't run. He walks at a fast pace, but he doesn't run. He probably has to throw things at animals that he has to kill and eat to kill his prey, or throw things at people. You also get into you also, for the first time in the Friday the 13th franchise, get your first real hint that Jason Jason isn't just undead. There's something going on here. And part 6 should get the credit for this. It gets into the occult. That Tommy looks up occult and undead like ways to get rid of Jason. Now, that is very, very interesting. Because when you think about Evil Dead and you think about the Book of the Dead, that could be considered an occult like thing. Tommy here as a character, he's still a bit crazy, but he's not crazy like he was. He's not completely crazy. Tommy is a lot more normal in this movie. He has way more lines. Great acting by Tom Mathis. If I mispronounce your first name, I apologize. He's my favorite. He's everybody's favorite Tommy. And he's mine as well. You understand he's a grown adult. He's also very attracted to the sheriff's daughter. Well, who wouldn't be, right? Jason has a good body count in this movie. Really good body count. Alice Cooper scores a song for this movie and the soundtrack. Great job. I can't say enough about this movie here. This also is going to be the last time canon-wise you see Tommy Jarvis. No offense to Never Hike Alone. This movie here, you're never seen Tommy again. And it makes sense why. It's you have to give the character some sort of closure. Do I think, and I don't think part 7 is a smack in the face to the character. I just think, look, they're going to keep bringing Jason Voorhees back if he makes the money. And part 7 was that. I don't hate part 7 because I feel 7's plot is at least somewhat better than Jason Takes Manhattan. Because, again, I've talked about is the events going to happen whether the character goes there or not. If Tommy Jarvis never goes to dig up Jason's grave, the events of 6 aren't happening. They aren't. This is Tommy's dream come to life, but Tommy's doing it. And, by the end of this movie, you get Tommy in the lake on a boat. He's got the chain. He's got the rock. He's going to wrap this thing around Jason's neck and put him back across the lake where he belongs. Where he says Jason's nightmare began, and yes, they're gaslighting for the versus Freddy versus Jason, because that's what part 7 was supposed to be, Freddy versus Jason. It wasn't, but it was what it was supposed to be. At least I've always taken that line as okay. That's why the line's there. Yes, Tommy succeeds. Tommy lives. Tommy also gets mouth to mouth from the girl who's attracted to him. Yes, the kids lives. None of the kids get killed off. Just the sheriff, his men, some of the sheriff's daughter's friends get killed. I think all her friends get killed. What a movie! And Tommy's survival is huge in a lot of ways. Number one, it gives closure to, and at least some closure to the character. You could always bring the character back for whatever reason. Do I think they will? I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever bring the character back or not. They certainly could if they wanted to. I think from a character standpoint, what makes him so interesting from start to finish is there are characters that understood Pamela's pain very well. Tommy is one of them. The guy who dressed as Jason in part 5 is the other. They understood Pamela's pain a lot. Pamela had the pain of she lost her son. Well, these people actually lost people they loved. Tommy did, And I think that's what makes the character so interesting too, that he was a young boy when he encountered Jason. Um, just like Jason was a young boy when he drowned, or supposedly drowned, whatever you want to say. I didn't do this in story form the way I usually do, because I think Tommy as a character is just, when you look at the character as a whole and the fiction that you see in front of you, you're sort of, man, Tommy is in these situations where, okay, his mom gets killed, him and his sister survive, and in part 5, you don't see his sister. His sister is out of his sister is not in his life. And nor in part 6. So you never hear from Trish again, which I think that makes things very interesting and maybe question mark. Did Trish know something about Tommy that we didn't? Because Tommy doesn't commit himself. Somebody had to put Tommy, okay, you need mental help. Or did Tommy agree to mental help? We never learned that either. That's something we never learned about Tommy. Did Tommy feel he needed mental help? Or did Trish go, Tommy, you need help? And Tommy agreed to it. That is a question I will leave you folks with. You folks have a nice day. Take care.